Catherine Zeta-Jones, a legend in her own right, with red lips and piercing eyes that once stunned the globe. She exuded an irresistible allure and commanding presence on screen, becoming the city of Chicago's guiding light. But that doesn't tell the whole tale. Behind the scenes, Catherine was only a human dealing with unhealed scars. She was never an immortal celebrity, a mother's downfall in the fight against unseen evil forces, a myth stifled by the fame that had previously catapulted her to the top. The little mark under her chin is merely a hint of a worse reality. Through the operation room, the red carpet, the sound of applause, and the long night of silence, pain has been her constant companion. For all to see, she grinned. In any case, no one has ever seen Catherine's tears up close. How did a former Hollywood queen become a prisoner of her own fame? Will her last chapter be a triumphant comeback or an unsaid tragedy? Catherine Zeta-Jones was a little girl from Swansea, Wales, long before the spotlights came down and the golden Oscar trophy glistened in her hands. The small girl lay, gasping for oxygen, in an ancient iron bed in a humble cottage with moss splattered roof tiles, drafty windows, and damp, frigid walls. Her small throat was so infected with a respiratory ailment that she was on the verge of suffocation. An emergency tracheotomy was performed by the doctors in order to preserve her life. A tiny scar was produced on the first wound, a symbol of doom. As she endured the cold of the scalpel and the blinding glare of the hospital, there was always that scar. It was only concealed under the several coats of makeup that would envelop the dazzling ball gowns that were still to be worn. Nobility was not Catherine's family background. The aroma of fresh wheat and yeast wafted through the air all day. Long at her father's tiny bakery, to ensure that all of her children's garments had several uses. Her mother meticulously embroidered and sewed. The brown-eyed, long-haired girl would jog with bread loaves for the shop along the tiny, misted streets of Wales in the early mornings. It was a lackluster, ordinary life. The confined space could never hold Catherine, though there was a flicker of excitement in her eyes at all times. As her parents toiled in the cramped living room, Catherine danced nonstop, spinning under the soft yellow light. She made music. The dilapidated house seemed like a makeshift Broadway set to her. Then, as fate would have it, the family won 100 Zalausen, amount that was far out of their league back then. They did not fritter it away. Rather, they relocated to a more desirable area, established a pastry store, and invested heavily in their daughter's ambition. Dance lessons, singing lessons, theatrical training. Her dad used to say that she had the fire in her. Her fire was only kindled by our assistance. At 4 o'clock, Catherine stood on the platform of a church hall, her little voice both shy and assured. Her Annie role began when she was 11 years old. Those small feet had stepped onto the stage of Bugsy Malone in the West End by 13 minutes. But as I stepped into the limelight, a little bit of my youth slipped away. Catherine toiled away at dancing rehearsals and incessantly traveled to performances as other kids played in the afternoon sun. She had her tryout for Mickey Dolenz Pajama Game, a traveling production of the Monkees, in 1983, when she was 14 years old. She not only made the cut, but she also captivated the crowd. A year later, at the tender age of 15, Catherine had to make a decision that would frighten even grown-ups. She could either stay in school or risk all on acting. There was just no other option for her. Revolt did not occur. Let fate take its course. On the other hand, Hollywood is notoriously cagey. She had a terrible experience with her 1990 film debut, 101 Nights in France. Despite receiving negative reviews, the picture only managed to sell 740 tickets and placed 78th at the box office. From the very first shot, she was severely crushed at the tender age of 20, engulfed in dreams. Catherine, however, remained upright. She picked herself up off the floor and went back to Britain. After that, in May of 1993, she became a domestic television star thanks to the Darling Buds. She showed the world that even after a hard first step, anyone can rise to the occasion and receive an even louder ovation than before. The connection between Richard and Julia was the enchantment of Pretty Woman. As Gary Marshall would later affirm, he stated they made the characters come to life to the point where I couldn't bear to see the film close on a downbeat note. Filmmaker J.F. Lawton was in agreement. He has previously speculated that the film's tone and drama may have been drastically altered had actors like Al Pacino and Michelle Pfeiffer been cast. Then Julia and Richard came along, and things were different. Their enthusiasm brought humanity and warmth to the story. As far back as the auditions, Lawton could feel a unique bond between the two. Even when they only spoke, you could perceive and experience it. He claimed that when they were together, the only possible conclusion was joy. Because of this, Pretty Woman concluded with a kiss, some music, and a message of hope that left theatergoers smiling. It wasn't always a picnic backstage. Amidst the dazzling lights of Los Angeles, Catherine remained on the periphery, holding on to the tenuous hope that chance will come her way someday. Opportunity finally presented itself in Steven Spielberg's eyes at the 11th hour, as if fate had been waiting to test her. Some think he saw her in the early Indiana Jones books. Still others maintain that the 1996 miniseries Titanic was the one. Spielberg saw something in Catherine that was enough to alter the course of her life, regardless of the direction she took. Just one role, one phone call, and a door opens. In 1998, Catherine shone brightly while wearing the Zorro mask. It was not an easy road to victory, though. Her path was blocked by an extensive roster of adversaries. This is Isabella Scorupco, Penelope Cruz, and Shakira. She suffered rib fractures while training for fencing and had to fight her way off horses. as she gripped the blade tightly in the shadowy practice rooms. Her hands blistered and bled. However, Catherine remained unmoved. "I wanted to deserve it," she reflected afterwards. The outcome was nearly $250 million worldwide at the box office, and the actress Catherine burst into flames with every stroke of the blade. Flamenco swirl of her skirt and rebellious glare on horseback. Catherine did more than that. She regained her identity. According to one reviewer, she doesn't just fill the frame, she owns it. After that, Catherine became impossible to miss. She became a generational symbol of sensuality after the 1999 film Entrament immortalized her picture, slipping between red laser beams. A more robust growl was exhibited by Traffic 2000. Catherine, which led to her being nominated for a Golden Globe and a SAG Award. Destiny then contacted the 2002 Chicago concert. Catherine, who was pregnant with her kid at the time, swung around the screen like Velma, Kelly, and sung and danced her heart out. Not only was she holding her pregnant kid as she held the Oscar, but she did it just 10 days before she gave birth. She brought to the Hollywood stage every one of her fears, uncertainties, and wounds. Her marriage to Michael Douglas, however, was an even more convoluted chapter than before, and it invariably followed triumph, a seemingly perfect love story. Yet on the inside, it evolved into one of the most dramatic, complicated, and fascinating Hollywood couplings of all time. Even before she met Michael Douglas, Catherine Zeta-Jones had experienced love and loss. Her first love, a relationship with TV host John Leslie, became a stifling prison. While she was in her 20s, a young artist with a yearning to fly but shackled by iron chains, Catherine was driven inside by her inability to manage her jealousy and her impulsive outbursts. She slipped away without a trace, but the wounds she had suffered were severe. Actor Angus MacFadyen of Scotland followed. A passionate love affair, a 1990s engagement that was set to lead her to felicity. However, things fell apart right before the wedding. Reason behind it remained a mystery. On a September night in 1998, at the Deauville Film Festival in France, Catherine could only mutter to herself, "There are loves that blaze and then vanish, and there are people you carry like a shadow for the rest of your life." And then fate arrived. The red carpet was a flurry of camera flashes. At the age of 28, Catherine Radiant had recently emerged wearing the Zorro mask. At 53 years old, Michael Douglas towered like a Hollywood landmark. A guy whose life had been half glory and scandal, with 2 Oscars and decades of celebrity. Friends introduced them informally. Interesting fact, they were born on the same day, September 25th. Nevertheless, fate did not immediately intervene in the meeting. Michael, all rugged good looks and no holds barred, strode up to Catherine and stated, "You're going to be the mother of my children." Catherine froze. She didn't find it romantic. The tone was conceited and clichéd. With a courteous grin, she quietly slid away, certain that she would never lay eyes on him again. However, a bunch of red roses showed up on the Scottish set of Entrament a few days down the road. Michael wrote a heartfelt apology with a touch of humor and attached it to the letter. The phrases were simple and to the point. It took Catherine by surprise. Out of nowhere, the door that had shut sprang open once more. They started conversing over the phone, through brief exchanges that spanned time zones and nights. They confided in one another about their upbringings, parents, and secrets they had always been too embarrassed to discuss in public. Catherine came to the realization that something had changed during those chats. Michael had ceased to be the Douglas symbol. When she needed someone to listen to her, he was the one. She ceased resisting completely as soon as she sensed her hold easing. Night of the 1999 New Year. The dense snowfall during Aspen's chilly nightfall. Tissues were all over the place, and both of them were cuddled up under blankets, sick with the flu. Without fanfare, Michael withdrew a timeless ring set with 10-carat diamonds. Laughing, Catherine gave a nod of approval. Just the facts, please, no showboating. When they found out Catherine was pregnant, their delight multiplied. And on November 18, 2000, Catherine strode through a forest of guests in a Christian LaCroix bridal gown during an extravagant, none of 15 million ceremony at New York's Plaza Hotel. The cast includes Tom Hanks, Sharon Stone, Jennifer Aniston, and Steven Spielberg. Their 3-month-old baby, Dylan, was held in Michael's arms. The media hailed it as the wedding of a lifetime. However, Catherine had a subtle victory. She mustered the courage to believe in love again. After enduring countless heartbreaks, even that most joyous day was not immune. Hello Magazine's paparazzi had sneaked in, taken stolen images, and turned the holy day into a protracted legal battle. It made little difference if Catherine prevailed or failed in court. The idealized vision of her wedding day was destroyed for her by the rape. For the first time, she experienced the immense pressure that comes with being the spouse of a famous celebrity, where love carries the extra weight of the world's scrutiny. Dylan entered the world in the year 2000. Karis came in 2003. In search of solace amidst the balmy winds and turquoise waters of Bermuda, Catherine and Michael escaped the incessant flashbulbs. Catherine and Michael had a paradisiacal 6 years on that little island. The sound of emerald winds whispering through palms, winding roads that stretch out to sun-kissed golden beaches. Away from the limelight, cameras, and red carpets, Dylan and Karis spent their childhoods there. In an interview, Catherine muttered, "It was the first time in my life I didn't hear the word action for months. And I loved it. But paradise was not enough to keep the darkness from seeping in." The tranquil waves masked the small storms brewing within Catherine's psyche. During the day, she played the role of a caring wife and mother. As soon as the sun went down, the questions began to pile up. Will this love last forever? How do I measure up in this world? Does he meet my needs? Catherine admitted years later that she had evenings of crushing anxiety while lying next to Michael as he slept, as if her whole world could crumble at any second. However, she consistently opted to remain indoors. The hundreds of mornings after the extravagant plaza ceremony in 2000, still choosing to look at each other and hold hands, was her marriage. That resiliency, though, was ruthlessly put to the test. Catherine started having extreme ups and downs in mood, overwhelming fatigue that would keep her in bed, and emotional dry spells that not even the bright sunshine of Bermuda could cure. She recalls having to put on a brave face on the red carpet, even though she was emotionally distraught. Bipolar disorder, a cruel combination of severe sadness and brief episodes of hypomania, was eventually given a name to these broken parts. Hollywood isn't forgiving of frailty, so she kept quiet at first. Catherine was terrified of being pitied, of being stigmatized, and of having her career stifled by its effects. Gritting her teeth, she continued to perform, smile, posture, and maintain her immaculate image. Except when she's turning inward, Catherine Zeta-Jones is rarely seen in front of the camera. However, there are limitations to even iron endurance. Cameron Douglas, Michael's eldest son, was arrested in 2009 on drug charges. It was a major controversy. Like ravenous vultures, the media is circling the family. Catherine, who was already weak, had the added burden of trying to console her husband, who had been distraught, all while protecting her two small children from the damaging spotlight of the news. Another surprise hit only a year after that. Stage 4 throat cancer was the prognosis for Michael. It was as if someone had stabbed Catherine in the chest with the news. She recalled the icy hospital halls, the glare of the neon lights on Michael's fair complexion, and the sight of the once proud and unbreakable man, now shaking under a thin blanket. As she endured the grueling rounds of chemotherapy, Catherine held onto his hand, hoping to impart to him the slender resilience that remained within her. Still, another storm erupted smack dab in the midst of this mortal conflict. A power that remained unmanageable. Michael unknowingly associated his cancer with the sexually transmitted virus HPV in an interview. Even though it was only a minor medical detail, the media made a big deal out of it. Without warning, the focus shifted from survival to Catherine, who became the object of intrusive curiosity, rumors, and suspicion in the media. Not only was Catherine already worn out, but she was suddenly thrust into the epicenter of shame. According to her friends, she felt exposed and violated, as if her last vestige of privacy had been sold off to the public. Everyone, including the media, failed to remember that our main concern was about surviving. She admitted it with contempt. Catherine experienced a complete and utter collapse of her life. Throughout those months, she has faith in herself, her marriage, her health, and her profession. Once an unbreakable rock, the man was now trembling and weak. She was always there for him, never leaving his side. But Catherine felt, in her heart, that she was descending into shadows. By 2011, the burden had grown intolerable. Catherine made the solo journey to a Connecticut facility for mental health treatment. There was no news conference, no paparazzi, just a somber woman entering a refuge while clinging to her own identity. Also, Catherine decided not to hide when the news did eventually get out. Openly, she spoke. Millions of people are impacted by this disorder. I feel no shame. It is not appropriate to conceal one's mental health. An innocent confession, yet a Hollywood thunderclap, all at once. An entire sector that relied on secrecy and evaluation began to quiver. Catherine was expressing more than just her own thoughts. For millions who have suffered in silence, she spoke out, thanking her for providing a vocabulary to express their suffering. Thousands of messages arrived from viewers, patients, and lost souls. However, bravery does not imply simplicity. Soon after the news broke, people started asking different kinds of inquiries. How solid was her marriage at this point? Is this where it all started? It was announced in 2013 that Catherine and Michael were temporarily splitting up, like they had caught wind of something bad. The press rushed in. The news was rife with accusations of adultery, drunkenness, and betrayal. But the reality was more dismal and straightforward. Just two individuals completely devastated. No drama, no scandal. Catherine conceded that in order to heal, we required space. In our own ways, we were both broken. They spent 8 months apart. Those 8 months were the lowest point in Catherine's life. She doubted her marriage, her work, her value, and even the love she had once put her trust in. When she was 44 years old, and she stayed awake all night long. A man, a house, and a part of her history were all taken from her. Every day, she was plagued by questions like this. According to Catherine's friends, Michael was practically invisible during that time. You can't let yourself love someone, despite your anguish. Though, once she let go, it was accurate too, softly, unobtrusively, without the presence of media or interviews. They held hands, once more, after being apart for 8 months. Not with a grand ceremony, but with the quiet, courageous choice to choose love again. The son of Cameron Michael became a parent shortly after his release from prison in 2017. Catherine saw it as a flicker of light that may restore optimism to a family that had been riven by strife and scandal. However, the storms were never really over. The allegations of sexual misbehavior against Michael surfaced in 2018. With the globe consumed by movements of public reckoning, old rumors reappeared. In public, Catherine was unwavering and steady by her husband's side. But her friends claimed she was broken on the inside. I didn't sign up for perfection, Catherine confessed, at the age of 49. Love was my enrollment fee. Being loved entails being motionless amidst turbulence. Michael and Catherine's marriage, which had already been through enough hardship, was further strained by the emotional wounds left by the probe, which ultimately faded away. Without providing a clear resolution, Dolly Parton is in excellent health and is still making music. At the age of 79, she recently had to put off a number of performing endeavors, including a run of shows in Las Vegas, in order to recuperate from medical treatments. Dolly Parton, though, has stated that she has no plans to retire from performing music anytime soon, proving that her devotion to the art form has not faded with the years. Dolly Parton's impressive career and astute business decisions have led to an estimated net worth of over $650 million. She is able to keep her financial footing and increase her influence in many different areas because to the fortune she has amassed, which comes from music and other sources as well. Music and songwriting royalties make up a significant chunk of Dolly's earnings. Jolene, I Will Always Love You, and more than 3,000 songs are in her possession. This stillness was not nothingness, but metamorphosis. Every morning, they took it easy and ate less complicated food. No longer constrained by filming constraints, their excursions became unfettered, and their conversations revolved around reminiscences, youth, and life's simple pleasures. I have played many roles: daughter, wife, mother, star, but now I just want stillness. I want to feel whole. Catherine confided in a friend who had visited, saying, I saw them barefoot dancing in the living room to jazz from an old record. It wasn't glamorous, it was peace. That year, in a rare interview, she also revealed that peace did not mean the absence of storms for her. Learning to dance within them brought peace. Beside her life partner over this entire period. What, then, is the story of Julia Roberts' life like? Having enjoyed film success for almost 30 years, how is she currently spending her time? Let's investigate. Julia Fiona Roberts came from an artistic family in Smyrna, Georgia, where she was born on October 28, 1967. Her mom, Betty Lou Bradamus, was a librarian by trade and a drama instructor and actress. Her dad, Walter Grady Roberts, was in the theater and helped start a workshop. Growing up as the third, youngest sibling, Julia was immersed in acting classes and stage stories, but she never felt comfortable in her own skin. Another Roberts sibling who went into movies was Eric Roberts. That led Julia to quickly come to terms with the fact that this line of work was both fascinating and demanding. Julia followed her older sister to New York City after finishing high school in pursuit of performing chances. She signed up for acting classes and gave auditions a whirl. Outside of her acting career, Catherine established the lifestyle brand Quasar Zeta-Jones, which includes apparel, cosmetics, and home items. Her more than $20 million in brand deals and partnerships are a testament to the timeless elegance of her wares. An estimated $150 million was her net worth. However, Catherine's identity was never determined by statistics. For her, a beautiful home is only truly beautiful when it holds peace. was her statement to Design magazine. The girl who, as a child, was on the verge of death while being operated on, who dropped out of school at 15 years old to pursue a career in acting, who once faced the brink of marital collapse and depression, has now discovered solace in the most mundane of things: a dinner table, a jazz record, and a glass of wine at Olive Garden. But the shadows have always lingered. The secret that destroyed her, bipolar disorder type 2, is still with her. Yoga, meditation, a balanced diet, and unwavering determination help Catherine manage it. She tells me, "I can come out of hiding now." She discovers her own strength in her candor. Her once fragile marriage to Michael Douglas is now rock solid. Not with the pretense of flawlessness, but with experience. Even to gaze at the same star, we sometimes require separate skies. Catherine once remarked, "No longer a fairy tale romance, but a love that keeps choosing each other after everything." Maybe this is Catherine Zeta-Jones's real achievement. Not just the Oscar, not just the everlasting screen images, but the tale of a courageous woman who danced in the dark despite the storms, spoke her truth, and risked to share her anguish. Catherine Zeta-Jones is 55 years old and has proven herself. She has realized the value of simply surviving and has given up pursuing youth. A glass of lemon water, some mild yoga, and the soft morning light coming in through her windows are her morning rituals. Time has left its scars on her face, but they are not symptoms of fading. Rather, they are the dignity marks of a lady who has stood strong through storms. Catherine, as if handing the torch to a new generation, reorganizes her riches, provides scholarships, and quietly encourages young Welsh actors, ensuring that the little aspirations that were once kindled in a Swansea living room may continue to burn. Catherine wasted no time smiling and answering the question about what scares her the most now that she's this old. "I used to have a surplus of that, but now I don't." Her marriage, public scandals, and the stigma associated with mental illness are all ancient scars that continue to fester. However, she gracefully holds each one in her hands. Much like an experienced dancer, the paparazzi once snapped a picture of Catherine standing barefoot on a balcony, with her hair disheveled, a linen robe around her, and a cup of coffee in her hand. Her strength is not in her glitz, but in her most modest moments. A woman who has mastered the art of living authentically. No lights, no cosmetics. That picture could be the most powerful one there is. What really matters is when a person discovers serenity in the dark, not the flashy red carpets or the raucous acclaim. We are moved by Catherine's path, not because it is flawless, but because she is resilient. Why? Because she has triumphed over the mundane. Everything from a Swansea lottery ticket to a glittering Oscar, from a tiny girl who had to learn to breathe to stay alive, to a woman who had the courage to talk about the dark side of her psyche.